Hey, folks, welcome to the Accessible Hunter podcast. And I'm here with my co host, Mike Hudson. I'm Greg Trainer, and today's a really special day. Today's Mike's birthday, and I'm just so happy that he joined us on his birthday. I know his wife is a saint because there's no way my wife would let me do a podcast on my birthday, and Mike's not even at home. Mike, where are you at today on your birthday, brother?
Man, we're actually at sea today. We just left Aruba. We're on the Carnival ship Vista, and we're heading to their grand opening. They just started a new island. They've got one out here called Celebration Key, and so we're going to be heading out there tomorrow. Um, Lots of folks going. It's going to be a good time, man.
Dude, I appreciate you taking time out of your vacation to talk with us and, tell us a little bit about what it's like being on a ship and, what's the accessibility like? What's the process of you getting on vacation? How's that work for you? Is it different than a hunting trip or what's the process?
It's just like everything else, man. We got to know what we're getting into, try to pack accordingly. I always bring a lot more supplies. We say that all the time. This is not stuff we can pick up at a Walmart or one of these places. So just I pack usually two or three times what I think I'm gonna need. Just allow yourself a lot of time. You're gonna have to go through TSA. They're cracking down a little bit. We've sailed before, so we've gone through Royal Caribbean, and this one's a Carnival ship. Like I said, we're on the Vista. Nice ship. It's not a brand new guy. It's not over the top large. I think we've got like 4,500 guests or so. The last ship we were on was the Carnival Mardi Gras, and I think we had like 6,800. But even that, I mean, it's a spacious ship. The only thing, and this is my pet peeve, the downfall is the elevators are always so doggone crowded. You can't get around. Um, and we don't have any other choice, right? Being in a power chair, it's not like we even have an option of taking stairs. But that's just going to always be the case. Um, it's pretty cool though, man, because this is the maiden voyage going into the new island, right? That the actual CEO of Carnival Cruise is on the ship with us, and we were able to bump into her and talk a little bit about accessibility and changes. And a lot of guests may not know it, but Carnival and all these other organizations, they have ADA classes. So it's going to be you'll have scooter or limited mobility, being able to get in certain door widths, and then you will actually have wheelchair accessible widths. But there's only a very few amount of those on a ship, so it makes it a little difficult to book. So we usually have to book a year or two in advance because they only have so many wheelchair accessible rooms that I can fit my chair through the door.
Wow. Wow. Well, I know that you're always advocating and running into the CEO. I'm sure you had a couple of ideas for her, and hopefully she was receptive to that because I know you never come off as a negative person, but you're always thinking and trying to improve the situation for those around you and the people coming behind you. Um, what was that like getting your ideas across to her?
She seemed like she was a decent lady. I mean, she sounded open and receptive, and she saw us talking to, you don't want to say her handler, but her liaison. And then she walked over and said, "Do you guys need me?" And so we were able just to chat with her for a second. My wife was doing all the chatting. I really couldn't get over to where she was at. It was over towards some of the upper decks, and these places. It's funny, they feed you to death. There's always food, always beverages. It's a really good time. Make sure you wear lots of sunscreen. If you get down to the Caribbean, it's a whole different animal. You know me, man, I'm like a lizard. I want to be out in the sunshine, but you got to really monitor where you're heading. But we were able to go to Bonaire. We've been to Aruba. Again, we're going into Celebration Key, and then this is an 8-day cruise, and so it's fun. A couple of solid days at sea, and then there's a ton to do on the ship. You can go to different shows. There's a lot to get involved in if you want to get involved in cruising. Just know your limitations. Um, it's like a floating city. I mean, they have everything from a morgue to infirmary to everything you would need in the city. They have on board.
Mike, what's it like making the transition from the ship to shore? You mentioned going to a new island. A lot of these ports, I'm assuming, are used to dealing with the elderly, used to dealing with people with mobility issues. But what's it like making the transfer from ship to shore and back again?
Each port's going to have its own differences, so you need to talk to them about some nuances. So we've gone into some ports that are really kind of sketchy with a power chair, short gangways, and they'll tell you that up front. This is probably not a great island for you to be on, and you can know that beforehand. Really just check through. Here the only issue that I've had at all was one of the gangways that was a little steep, but with these new permobiles you can tilt the thing back. Had no issue at all. The chair traversed it fine. Um, but it's really just knowing which ports you're going into, and the people are so accommodating. You just talk down, call down to guest services, talk through them, or go through one of the ADA compliance officers and let them know what you got and what your needs are beforehand, and you won't have too many problems. It's really just about knowing your surroundings and where you're heading. The cool thing is there's so many things online that you can go through and really handpick what you want to get into. Um, they're really good about information, so that they're always chiming through from chow. If you want to go sit at a sit down restaurant, they're giving you the menus days in advance, so you can go through, pick out what you want. Or there's always stuff going on, nacho bars, pizza bars, all that stuff's constantly flowing. And it's really just what you want to get into. And this is what I like the nightlife. I love people watching. I love sitting on the deck and just listening to the kids play. And so it's really what you want to get into. We'll go sit at the piano bar and, maybe have a drink and just, relax. And it's just an opportunity to do something different.
When you're getting off the ship, Mike, and say you want to go to a bar, that everybody else is going to, is there transportation that's waiting off of the ship that's accessible for your chair? How do you arrange going from ship to bars or ship to shopping and things of that
Right.
nature?
That's a great question, dude. No, there's not. They'll say they have it. That's one of the things that my wife wanted to talk to the CEO yesterday about. Is they haven't had really great information about Celebration Key. They keep saying that they have some wheelchair accessible trolleys and whatnot, but they haven't 100% definitively been able to say we're gonna be able to use them. So we will find out tomorrow when we get there, and I'll be making videos and letting you guys know what worked, what didn't work. Again, this is the maiden voyage, so they're going to have to probably work out some kinks anyway. But that being said, um, on this trip, my wife found a really great tour guide that was wheelchair accessible in Bonaire. So we booked a private tour and did 4 hours with them, and they took us all over Bonaire. And we've done that same thing, and I'll tag the links and whatnot and share. A lady named Donna that was phenomenal, and so she took us all over the place and got out. And what we usually tell them is we don't want to do the touristy. We want to go out and see where you live, how you live. And so Bonaire is a beautiful place. It's kind of desolate, not a lot of infrastructure. They're more of like a dive island. They've got a lot going on, but they live with a lot of rules. It's pretty cool. They got a lot of cactus fencing, so on your property, you're not allowed to move cactus or disturb cactus unless you keep it in a certain format. So if there's a cactus growing and it's native, you can't just dig it up and toss it out. You have to relocate it onto the property. And so a lot of people use them and they build these cactus fences. Really cool looking fences, man. Um, but anyway, you talk about having a workers' comp, dude. I mean, it'll wear you out just moving your fence around. But but what's really good is we're able to go out and see how the natives live, and how the people go. So I'll tag her in a link. St. Thomas was the same thing. We had a guy named Larry. He took us around for 6 hours and just we got to meet his family. We got to go to a local restaurant, try local food. Um, they do a lot down here with just sugar cane, and so the drinks taste different. Coke products or whatever is made with the natural sugar cane as opposed to just processed sucrose. And I mean, it's always something different. Try different foods. That's what I like about it. And being on a cruise ship, you can try a bunch of different appetizers or entrees or whatever you want to do. And I kind of tend to have stretchy pants when we get on these things.
Well, well, dude, you are a self-proclaimed foodie. You enjoy going to local restaurants in South Carolina and all over. Whenever you travel, you always seem to find the best restaurant, the best location, and I look forward to seeing your vacation pictures and what you're eating and things like that. I got one other question for you for people that have difficulty transferring that may use a Hoyer lift or adaptive equipment. What did you plan on for the trip? How did you work that out?
Man, that's another great question, Greg. And that's what I love about doing these things with you. You're always so insightful and you come up with some really good positives. And that was another thing. We booked in advance. I'm dealing with a pressure sore right now, so we were able to get a Hoyer on board. I'm used to using the sliding board, and I brought my sliding board just for a backup, just in case. You never know what kind of corks you're going to run into. So I brought my sliding board just as a precautionary measure. But that being said, there's a company that will deliver a Hoyer to you. Manual Hoyer works great. We've had no issues whatsoever. And this bed, we've got a queen size bed in our room, so I'm still able to shift side to side to get off my wound. So just because you're dealing with an issue doesn't mean you can't still travel. You just have to make sure you're working according.
That's awesome that they would deliver the Hoyer lift right to your room, and you didn't have any issues with it because that keeps a lot of people from traveling. As you're trying to figure these things out. It's nice to know that somebody's already done it, been there, done that, and it's working for them.
The things I like. So this ship's got a lot of good amenities. The newer ones, like I mentioned, the Mardi Gras earlier, they have a lot of push button amenities on that ship. So if you wanted to get onto the balcony, this ship has the same thing. In my room, you push a button, it opens a watertight bulkhead. I can go out myself, close it from the outside. If you have a problem, there's an emergency button you can hit. It'll bring people to your room stewards that can come let you back in. On the ship, they have some hand raise capabilities. So you wave your hand in front of a wand, and it will unlock and lock bathroom doors.
Wow.
There's a lot of amenities. I cannot get into this room door by myself because it has a key card slide on the door. My other on the Mardi Gras, I could hold a card up in front of the door and it would unlock. But it's just a difference in the newer technology based off the ship's age. Um, you're going to have to go through TSA when you get off at ports. So when you come back on, they're going to pat you down and look through your stuff. No big deal. You just have to go through the process.
Right, right. It's the little things like the door unlock and the button to go out on your balcony and the emergency button on the balcony that, makes it so much easier and increases your independence.
Yeah.
I always say, if we have a paddle style handle on a door, I can open it. If it's the old school doorknob, it may as well be a prison sentence for me. I can't open that door.
Yeah.
So little things like that may not mean a lot to able-bodied people, but I know it sure makes a difference for people like you and me and other people, with disabilities.
Yeah, yeah, I like to be independent as I can. Some of these things, I'm still going to have to ask for help. It just is what it is, and that's just because of some of the limitations I have with hand dexterity issues. Just humble yourself if you need it and ask for it. But here's the thing: to push yourself to be as independent as you can. I love going up and traversing different floors and going to see people and talking to people, and that's the good thing. You're going to make lots of friends because you need to get in the elevator as fast as you can. So there's times I'll jump on I need to go up a floor, but the elevator's going down. If I can get in it, I'm going to get in it and just ride down to get back up. Because that's going to be your limiting factor is whenever you can get on and off the ship. Just remember those days are the most chaotic. Getting on board and leaving the ship for your final debarkation, those are going to be the hardest ones because everybody's cattle prodding through there.
Yep.
So
Yep.
those are a little tough, but other than that, when you're on the ship, man, it's good times. Just let it roll.
Well, brother, I know it's your birthday and I'm taking up your time. I just got one more question for you. And I know that this is going to be a great memory for you and Michael. And what are you doing on your birthday special today? And how are you celebrating, this memory that you're going to have for a long time?
Dude, man, I'm 53 today, dude, and so I'm living on borrowed time. I joke around. My father was 44 when he passed away. Um, I always compare my life kind of to his. I'm going off the genetic code, and every day I'm still upright is a great day. Being able to see you, man, and be able to do these things, dude, this is what I love. And so today's just going to be a great day. We're on board with a couple of friends that we travel with. Like I said, we have to book a year or two in advance. And so we got some friends from Alabama and some other places that will meet us. And then we load up on the ship and we ride it out. So I think we're just going to go sit in the sun, have a good time. We'll probably go to one of the specialty restaurants, maybe one of the steakhouses tonight, and just have a ball, just being out and having an opportunity to celebrate together.
Dude, that's awesome, amazing. Happy birthday. I love you. And can't wait till you're back and I get to see some pictures and really enjoy yourself. I hope you and your wife and your friends have a good time traveling the islands and looking forward to hearing what you have to say about the accessibility on all these places. So, Mike, happy birthday, brother.
Hey man, that means more than you know, Greg. Dude, I love you too. It goes far beyond these podcasts. It's always a blessing to be able to promote other people and to see how folks are just getting after life regardless of an accident or injury. Get out and enjoy life, man. This water is just crystal clear. When you get down anywhere in the Caribbean, get out and try different drinks, different foods. Check out the different cultures. They've got steel drums playing upstairs. I can hear them today. And I love being in the woods and I love wetting a hook, man. But when you get to see some of the stingrays and the sharks and swimming with the dolphins and snorkeling and scuba diving, they've got beach chairs, that you can rent while you're on these things. Just look at the excursions, get out and try them all, man.
I've never been to the islands, Mike, but you make it sound, like such an adventure. Uh, I'm going to have to get down that way, hopefully with you one day, and it would be fun. So, island life, stay hydrated, get your sunscreen on, wear your big hat, and just tear it up today, man. Tear up 53.
Hey, we're gonna do it. Hey, you tell Beth, y'all get to looking at your itinerary. Coy Varnum sent me a birthday thing this morning. Said he's never been on a cruise. He's thinking about one. Sounds like me, you, Beth, and Coy gonna have to link up and all of us go.
Man, I would love that. My wife is a beach person. We used to go to the beaches, every year. We kind of got away from that this year. We're sticking a little bit close to home this year, but she'd be the first one to jump in and get on a cruise or go to the beach. And that's her happy place. Like you and I like the deer woods. Beth likes the beach. So we should do that. We should make it happen. And like you said, it takes a lot of planning and maybe
Yeah,
a year in advance. So we'll get on that. But man, enjoy the rest of your day. And thanks so much for taking time out of your vacation. And tell Michael I said hello and you enjoy it.
absolutely, brother. Man, I truly appreciate you, Greg.
Hey, folks, it's Greg Trainer with the Accessible Hunter podcast. And Mike and I thought it'd be a good idea if we did a part two to his birthday slash cruise vacation and kind of do a little after action report. Mike, I'm glad that you're home from vacation and what's going on in South Carolina? Y'all rested up now or what?
Heck no, man. That's one of the things about paralysis. It doesn't take a vacation, so it goes along with us, man. It's just like anything else. It's work. We have to get up extra early to try to be involved with family and excursions and all that. So the paralysis part doesn't take a vacation. I try to give my bride a little bit of extra reprieve and give her up on the Serenity deck so that she's not dealing with me full time. Uh, Cruising and anything else, it is what you put into it. Pre-plan, do everything you can, try to communicate as best you can with the concierge and all that, so they understand the difference between ADA and wheelchair compliant. You know your excursions, that kind of thing. But for your question, Greg, I'm doing good. South Carolina is good, man. It's hot. It's not Venezuela area hot, but we're doing good, man. This it's a busy week. We hit the ground running as soon as we got back.
You're always got irons in the fire. I know you do a lot with your local universities and students coming over to the property so that you can talk with them. And it's incredible what you get to do, Mike. You get to speak with so many people, and the university and the students are lucky to have you. But going back to vacation, I appreciate you taking time on your birthday to do the podcast. And we did a little short one talking about some of the things you were experiencing, planning for the cruise. And I just thought we'd talk about, how it went from your perspective now that you're back home. I know you've been on a couple of different cruises. You like to travel. You're a foodie.
Right.
How did it all go, man?
Man, look, thank you for doing it on my birthday and being able to carve out some time and stuff from your end. You're a busy guy, man, and I get it. Most people don't understand the number of hats we wear and the number of things we try to do. It's never about kudos or pats on the back, but you and I both know that time is finite and we only have so much of it, and we're trying to advocate 110% and try to push things forward as best we can. I enjoyed spending time with you on my birthday, dude, and being able just to, chat it out. Um, the birthday went great, man. Some of my friends that went with us, I don't like being a spectacle or whatever. And I told them, hey, you guys don't do anything special at supper time. Well, they did. They did a cake, and the entire floor staff was singing to me and cutting up and carrying on. It makes it good. It's just I'm really not an extrovert. By nature, I have to push myself to do that part. But the staff and everybody did a phenomenal job. We ended up on my birthday. We were in trying to remember. We were in Aruba, and so we found this really great restaurant. We got off the boat, went over and tried some different drinks that they make with sugar cane. So it's you got a little bit cleaner sugars, if you will, not processed to death. Then we tried some food. They had this phenomenal food truck that was made out of an airstream that coincided with this uh, bar, and so they flawlessly worked together, and nobody else from the cruise company was there. It was just the six of us and then the wait staff. So it worked out. It was our own private little tour, if you will. And man, we had a blast. And we spent some time in Aruba, and Bon Air was fantastic. We got to do a private tour when we were in Bon Air. We booked it. They had a wheelchair accessible van, and we did 4 hour tour of the whole island of Bon Air. The guy that was with us is from there, so he took extra time to tell us all about everything from annual rainfall to some of the indigenous personnel and how the island's set up in an ABC chain. And so that just means Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao. And they're right outside the typical hurricane belt. So it's a dive spot that is phenomenal. And then the flamingos and all the different waterways. They do a lot with airflow. So you have the sky. I'm trying to think of what they call it. Kite sailing. All of that where you can hook into a board and use the kites to generate the wind power so that you can surf. It's a beautiful island, and the people there. I absolutely love being engulfed in the culture of everything they got.
Mike, you don't do the typical tourist stuff when you travel. You kind of booked a tour with a tour guide and had an in-depth tour of that island. What do you notice as far as like animals and do they? I know they probably do a lot of fishing around the island, and there's
Hmm.
a big thing on seafood. But what's conservation like on the islands with so many visitors? The cruise ship probably has what 5,000 people on it, so
Right.
you have a small city visiting that island every week. What's
Mm.
the conservation like and the animals around the island?
Man, that's what I love about doing these things, man. You're so inquisitive, dude. You always hit spot on. It's awesome to be able to do the tours. I always try to book something away from Carnival, though they don't. You hate to say they don't understand, but really the difference between ADA compliance and wheelchair compliance kind of flies over guest services. Sometimes they don't fully understand it. But we've been blessed. Every time we go, we try to find something localized, and try to pour back into the economy of the people that are there. And you're right, I don't want to do the touristy stuff. I can do it and I can see it on C-SPAN and YouTube and all these different things. I always want to go, and we tell the liaison, whoever's taking us on the tour, don't take us to the tourist spots. Where would you go? Show us what you would do. Let us see you and your people and your culture so we can take it and be genuine. And this guy we had, his name was Saab, Saab, like the car. And phenomenal guy, man. He took us all over the spot. Um, Matter of fact, it was funny because the dive master that sets up all these tours, she had we broke up into two groups. So we had three guys in the wheelchair accessible van, three ladies were in the truck in front of us, four counting, the lady that was delivering. Um, and it was funny because we had two different tours, right? So you had, two different ride-alongs. And Saab was so engulfed in everything about the island. He wanted us to get a true feel. And it's a semi-volcanic island, right? So it's got a lot of cactus and it's got a lot of coral, very porous sand. They've got a lot of lizards, iguanas, tropical island stuff. What was really cool too is on this island, so cactus and that kind of stuff is really taken care of. The people understand that there's only so much property, and this Bonaire is not overly developed. Now, when you get to Aruba, it's more of your five-star hotels, your touristy areas. Bonaire is more of a dive site type island, and so a lot of what you see there is going to be more conservation areas. So they do a lot with flamingos. And so, you know me, man, I love being educated. And so we're going along these like floodplains. And a lot of these places, they're only floodplains during the rainy season. And so the rest of the time, they're really, really shallow water areas. And so the flamingos and localized birds come in and really make nest and feed and all that. And so Saab was like, you understand that the flamingos, the whiter they are, the younger they are. The older they are, the pinker they are. And I
I
was
did not
thinking,
know that.
right, me either. And I'm thinking, hey, man, I would think it was the pinker, the more vibrant, the younger, the yada yada. And he's like, no, they pick up a lot of that pink from the seascapes, from the bacteria that's in the water, from the shellfish that they eat. All of that just enhances their pink plumage over time. I was like, dang, learn something new every day. Um, so that's awesome. And then what was funny is he's been doing these tours for about 7 years. And the lady that was doing the tour with my wife and them, I just asked Sab, I said, tell me some more about how you earn your income other than being able to do this. And he said, I sell plants. And so he drove us to his home. And
Wow.
the lady that was with us, she said, I've known him for 7 years. I didn't even know where he lived. And so just to be invited into someone's home, to share their culture, to be able to learn more and more about them, that's always humbling. And so we've been able to do that now in Bonaire. We were able to do that in St. Martin, St. Thomas, and being able to find wheelchair accessible vehicles in these places that can take a quadriplegic and a full on power chair. It's phenomenal, man. So it's just, I'm rambling today, but it's just a lot of stuff to cover that is absolutely beautiful. That these islands, they go above and beyond. They want to cater to and they want to introduce. And um, it was supposed to be a 3 or 4 hour tour, and we stayed with them from about 12 until after sunset. And so
Wow.
he's like, I know the tour is over, but we want to show you more. And it was just awesome opportunity. If you just look around, there are tons of them.
Man, that's really great that you interact with the locals so much. And as you said, you're giving back into that local economy. You're not supporting the big businesses, the tourist traps. This is an individual that does this for a living, has a
Hmm.
side business, hard worker, obviously personable. Brought you and your whole group to his home, showed you
Hmm.
around, gave you more information than just the hey, here's the local bar, here's the margarita with some extra salt on your rim.
Right, right. And that's what I love about it. They really once they see that you're genuine and you really want to know them, man, they pour into it and they just want to tell you more and more about what's going on. And that's what I like about, touring a lot of these Caribbean places. The culture there, man, is phenomenal. And I go back to, being a history major, I love, thinking about the pirates and thinking about the interactions and the smuggling and all this different stuff that coincided with rum and distilleries and people moving and I'm thinking about the whole Pirates of the Caribbean and what kind of buried treasures just offshore and I've always loved scuba and snorkeling and interacting with the wildlife and seeing coral and fish. And, they've got all that set up that you can do that as well. Even as a quad, if you got it, they'll accommodate it. You just have to be open and receptive and be mindful of your needs. And then if you can convey what you need, more than likely they're going to be able to help facilitate a lot of that.
Like you talked a little bit about transportation, the accessible vehicle, and how was it getting off of the ship? Using the elevators, using the ramps, getting your power chair down, and then did they meet you at the dock with the accessible van? What was all that like? Because I've never taken a cruise. I'm always a little bit, hesitant about transportation issues, and if you could just talk a little bit about getting on and off the ship with a power chair.
Man, right before I came on this podcast with you, I was actually filling out the questionnaire that came through with Carnival. We've traveled with Carnival, Royal Caribbean, a couple others. We're looking at MSC. We're going to try out a few different ones. And you know me, man, I like to give honest feedback. Carnival does a really good job. Um, Disembarking and embarking are always difficult for everybody because it's like a mass chaos, cattle shoot, push everybody in because they got to get you on the boat and get you moving in an expedient amount of time. But it's terribly difficult for people in power chairs, because elevators are at a premium. Everybody and their brother wants to get on an elevator instead of taking a flight of stairs. I try not to be too frustrated with them because I have to understand they're on vacation too. Um, I wish we could get more and more people to understand we don't have a secondary option.
Right.
Elevators are our only choice. So it makes it difficult getting on and off the boat. But even on the tour, we're on an 8-day cruise, just trying to get to the next level to get to Chow, all of that. There's only so many elevators and so much space. These things take up a lot of room. They're difficult. I wish more and more people would just take the stairs if you could take the stairs. It's not going to kill you. I would be glad to do it if I had that option. Um, Getting on and off on your excursions, each island's going to be a little bit different. Some of them require, you to reach up to a gangway that's a little different. Some of them have waterways, so they'll have taxis and all that. You'll have to know depending on where your island destination is or wherever you're heading. On this particular one, um, let's see, Aruba, when we got off the ship, the gangway was a little steep. So just know, we're blessed. Our permobiles have tilt. Going up and down the gangway is not a big deal. Just put your chair in tilt, go slow. You can get on and off. This one, we were the inaugural ship going into Celebration Key, and the only thing that was really irritating about this trip was nobody from guest services on down to or on up, if you will, because Christine, the president of Carnival, was actually on the ship with us, and we kind of cornered her people one day and said, nobody's able to give us a definitive answer on what we can and cannot do at Celebration Key. And then when we got there, they had probably 25 or 30 of the PVC balloon chair beach chairs for people with disabilities. And everybody was touting that as a huge victory. And trust me, it is a step in the right direction. But for you and I, they're not easily attained. We can't easily transfer to them. It makes it very difficult for us to try to get on and off of it. And then, two, now we're in an oversized stroller and we're putting more wear and tear on our family members to have to be
Mhm.
able to transport us through this deep sand. And so we tried to explain that to them. Yes, that will help somebody with an aged family member or somebody that could easily stand, or somebody that's just a little unstable. Give them a little stability in soft sand, shifting sand. But for the everyday real power chair user that, our only mobility device is our chairs, um, if they would have placed a couple Moby mats, man, it would have really opened up accessibility, because then anybody could have used it. People with strollers people in manual chairs, hospital chairs could have stayed in their chair, never had to transfer over, and that Moby mat just opens up a whole different dynamic. Around some of the places in Celebration Key, you could easily get around the main areas. But when you tried to get to the adult sections, all of that was sand. So we couldn't get to the adult lagoons. Um, all of the bars, even if you just wanted ice water, they had a step down in sand. Um, they had these sections set up where they made these really cool food trucks. Um, but then when you got right up to the area where you went to order, had a sandy area. So now we took away the independence of me to being able to roll by myself and order and placing food orders and receiving drinks, that kind of thing. It's not that we're trying to make it into a negative. I mean, it's just it is what it is. But at the same token, we were able to talk to some of the concierge. Hopefully, it didn't fall on deaf ears, and that way they can make some changes to make it inclusive for everyone.
Mike, you brought up a really good point about the Moby mats. And for those folks that may not understand what we're talking about, it's the big blue access mats that a lot of beaches in the U.S. have, and
Hmm.
it's 3 or 4 feet wide, and they usually get it right from the sand down about 100 yards to the beach, but they don't really take it far enough sometimes for me to
Hmm.
be useful. Um, but the Moby mats make a huge difference that it enables us to stay in our power chair to be
Right.
able to get down to the beach because those PVC big balloon tire chairs, they may look like they're the right, fit for everybody, but they're not. My wife has a very difficult time pushing me through the
Hmm.
sand in one of those. And I'm not a big guy. Also, the seat cushion, there's no seat cushion, there's no
Mm-mm.
tilt, there's no recline for weight shifts. You and I are both dealing with pressure wounds right now,
Correct. Right.
and to get in one of those beach chairs would just not be ideal.
Mm.
So if they would have added some Moby mats and taken that step out at the bar, or had the mats and ramps over to the adult section, over to the bars, that would have made it inclusive for everyone,
Correct.
not just you.
Yeah, and that's what it's about, man. I told one of them, I said, I understand you guys were trying to stay low key. You didn't want everybody to understand everything that was going on prior to with the island. You wanted to make it a special event, special opening, all of that. But they could have easily done some focus groups with guys that look like you and I. Really talk to them about, hey, will these type beach chairs be really open and useful? You and I would have probably told them no, that they're more trouble for us to get to, especially with dealing with wounds, especially when you're dealing with full-on paralysis or folks with strokes that have a lot of issues with transfers. Those things, they do not fluctuate in height, so it's extremely hard to get to. There's no Hoyers or anything like that to help you transfer to
Transfer.
them. They don't have any pivoting wheels up front, so you have to kind of pop a tire. And like you said, Beth has trouble trying to get you to steer and turn. They're difficult. They're difficult chairs to work with. Moby mats, man, they're hard packed in the sand. They allow you to interact with your family members, and you can easily. We've had some beach crews in the past just bring umbrellas, set up an umbrella right beside the Moby mat, and I
Yep.
stay in my chair right there, and I'm able to do full respite care where the entire family's together, and I'm
Yes.
interacting with never having to get in any quote specialized beach chair.
Yep. And I wonder, Mike, if they would be open to having a focus group of individuals, guys and girls in chairs that use them every day, that live the lifestyle, to give them their opinions, because they spend all this money on these chairs, and they quote that it's accessible, but really it's not. They may want to do the right thing, but they don't know what the right thing is.
You know,
And
go
go,
ahead, Greg. I'm sorry.
oh no, and I was just going to say, if any of the higher ups are listening to this podcast, or somebody that is making the decision, that is a decision maker, a shot caller, get the right people in there to give true and honest evaluations and opinions on accessibility. We live this stuff every day. You've done it for 30 years. I've done it for 26. And we're not going to give you bad advice. We're going to tell you if it works. The Moby mats are probably a lot cheaper than what they spent on those chairs.
Hmm. And that right there, you hit the nail on the head, Greg, when it comes down to it. If all we're doing is talking to these people, we're not in a position to make change. We're not in a position of power. All we're doing is making suggestions. It's about empathetic dialogue. None of us wants to sit there and just sound like we're complaining. When I do these posts and we go through these podcasts, all of that, it's about information.
Mhm.
I told the guys and girls when I did my post through Carnival, we were able to share some of the information and pictures. I'm not just making up stuff because we want to try to get send some kind of guest services jacked up or whatever. We want a overall better, inclusive vacation for everyone. We want to
Mhm.
make it easier on Carnival personnel. Moby mats, if you take care of them, they'll take care of you. They're made of a material, a polymer that lasts forever and a day. Just take care of it. They're more easy to accessorize, to move around, to relocate if needs be. Um, and all we're asking for is to be included in the situations. If they would add focus groups, have groups that were set up that had folks that look like you and I, that we can give them honest feedback. Man, we are chair experts in the avenue that we've been sitting in them for 20 plus years. We understand the day to day, the ins and outs of what's going to help not only us, but a lot of people with profound high level injuries.
Exactly. And when you talk about transferring in and out of those chairs, I mean, wouldn't it be nice to have a Hoyer lift there, or the ability to get you and I from our regular everyday chair into a beach chair, or the ideal would be an action track chair, or an Echo Rover, or some type of mobility device that is powered so that our loved ones, our spouses, don't have to push us down the beach and up the hill of the sand dune. I mean, a lot of people struggle pulling a cooler behind them at the beach. Imagine pushing a guy in a chair or a girl in a chair.
But if you had that Moby mat, it makes it a lot easier just for even that igloo or whatever that you got, what kind of cooler that you got, wheeled cooler to be able to go down there. Parents with kids and strollers, you
Yep.
can easily pull them, up and down the Moby mat. Those things open up a whole new avenue. You brought up track chairs. They do phenomenal, but then you got the whole avenue of maintenance and transfers, and all of it adds to. They had a wheelchair accessible tram right from the ship to Celebration Key. I got on it, had no trouble. So they wouldn't have any trouble getting scooters and power chairs on them. They have a ramp built onto the side, the liaison that drives those, really good about locking you in place. But even if you didn't want to use it, to me, it took more time and effort to load up on the tram to get there because it was really only about an 8 or 10 minute stroll in my chair under sunshades. They had sunny spots blocked out so that you could find shady areas. So it was really a nice just stroll down the pier to the Celebration Key. And a lot of people don't know this is a spot set up by Carnival on the backside of Grand Bahama Island. And so, we were only a day away. That was our last stop to get back to Florida where we were at Cape Canaveral. And so when it gets down to it, know your destinations, know what your limitations are, be open and receptive so that you can communicate. And what it comes down to is what me and you try to say every time is be open, have a good line of communication, know what your needs are, but also remember you're not only advocating for you and your trip today, but you're advocating for the people that are coming on the trip on um, next tours. And so
Yes, sir.
it's all about bringing up the people around you. And if we do it right, we're educating the staff. Now the staff don't have to ask awkward questions.
Mhm. The only other question I have, you mentioned about strolling down, rolling down in our chairs, which I love. I mean, I don't want to have to board the tram for a quick 2-minute ride. My
Hmm.
permobile will go 7 miles an hour if I have a good sidewalk or a good surface. What were the sidewalks and surfaces like? Were there curb cuts around the shopping areas? What was that like for you there?
Oh man, they had that pretty much all one level. Once you got off the gangway on the ship, it was pretty much a straight shot all the way through Celebration Key to go around the main castle area there to get around like the kiddie pools. All of that was one level. No real trouble, but then you're in the kids area. You have
Mhm.
to know that it's first come first serve for some of those tables. Not all of them were in shady areas. You are in a tropical area, so it's going to be extremely hot. Um, get there early, try to find you a spot that you can stake out. They did have some sprinkler systems and stuff that the younger kids could interact with. If I got too hot, I could get close enough to it to get a little water on me. We're in power chairs, so make sure you watch your hand control, that kind of stuff. You don't want to get your ECM inundated with a ton of water. Again, it's just knowing you, knowing your personality, knowing your equipment. Also knowing, how do you do with heat disbursement. Um,
Mhm.
Carnival was really good. They gave us no trouble with bringing water bottles off the ship. Making sure now they're going to check all your stuff when you come back on. So remember that if you're one of those guys that want to try to sneak an alcohol drink into your personal stuff, that's fine. Just know that they may or may not check it. You are going back through TSA, and so they're gonna give you a full pat down. And so, as wheelchair users, just understand when you come back on, they're gonna physically lay hands on you. Not in a negative way. I haven't had any trouble on any of these cruises, and we've done multiples. They're just going to want to know how much you can lean forward so they can feel around the small of your back. Um, but then just know your limitations. If you can't raise your legs, if you can't lift your arms, just communicate that to them. You got to understand too. It's kind of awkward for them as well because they don't know what to touch, how to touch, sensory overload. They really try to work with you, but they only know what they know, and
Right.
so it's up to us to try to help educate them because we are the overall end users, and we're doing this every single day. So instead of being a greasy, obnoxious wheel, let's be entertaining, let's be communicable, let's be the professionals, and making sure that we're just trying to make a good vacation for not only us, but a good working environment for those guys that are there on the islands every day.
And it's having a seat at the table, Mike, explaining our needs in a professional, polite manner, but communicating why we need something, what would work better, not just for you and I on this trip, but for the folks that come behind us. There's been a lot of advocates over the last 35 years of the ADA. We're celebrating the ADA at the end of the week. And, you know, people have tried so hard to make things accessible, and it's been 35 years, and we just have so much more to do. Um, and we can't be afraid to speak out about our needs. And as you said, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. I like to communicate what I need and why I need it. And hopefully, most of the time, people understand that and realize that, you know, this is the right thing to do.
That's the hard part about it, Greg. We are celebrating all these years. The ADA was passed in 1990, and we got some really good stuff out of it. But at one point, it's gotten to where it's stagnating now, and I'm just soapboxing myself, and I see a lot of things that we need to make change on. I still get to go and do some of the stuff with the PVA, the Paralyzed Veterans. We'll go to DC and we'll talk about different things from wheelchair elevate and how do you get more and more people into places? How do you get them out of? And we're still arguing with the same points of airline travel, and you and I can't get to a domesticated bathroom on an airplane. They take our wheelchairs away, which we're in specialized seat cushions that help with pressure. They take that away, and then they treat our chair like luggage, and they our statistics are showing that 27 chairs per day are being damaged in airlines, domesticated airline flight across the United States. That's asinine, man. These are our legs. We're not asking for something because we want it. We absolutely need these modality devices as our independent travel. And so, just trying to get ahead of the advocacy game. It's again, we don't need to do it in a negative manner. We need to be able to articulate what we need and be able to have people that are open and receptive to what our needs are. We need to be at the table talking to TSA, talking to Boeing, talking to American Airline and saying, this is what it's going to take. Because when it comes down to it, we can use the DoD standard for lockdowns on a vehicle. If we get into a crash on the interstate at 85, 90 miles an hour, these things have been tested over and over again. They are good restraint systems. And if we have them on an airplane, we can stay with our chair, yada, yada. It doesn't matter if we hit the ground at 600 miles an hour, your seatbelt's not helping you any better than my lockdown system. But it puts us in a position where we can travel and give us more humanality, give us a more of an aspect of understanding. We're with our chair, we're with our families, and it opens up an avenue. Just again, so I'm not on this thing talking to you to death. I love to travel, man. I love to go, and I would fly a lot more. I would do a lot more of that if it was more wheelchair friendly. Unfortunately, it's not. It's not at all.
Absolutely, Mike. And it's just a matter of greed, a matter of the airlines not opening up those seats to power wheelchairs. We've talked about it for years, not just you and I, but hundreds of thousands of people have advocated for this.
Right.
And it's to me, it's just a matter of greed at this point that the airlines will not give up those seats to make it accessible.
And
But
they've looked at statistics and they see that it's not going to take a lot of money to be able to retrofit some of these planes. I mean, it's just not. They've done courses over and over. Scholastic work, man. You can a lot of my research I'm doing now. You see it. It's not going to take a lot of these planes out of rotation to be able to fix them up here and there, little bits and pieces at a time. And like you said, it can't be anything but greed at this point because they've known for years this issue is out there. I mean, it's in plain sight, and they're
mhm,
just choosing at this point not to make change. But bigger than that, man, I've come across research data over and over and over again where the airlines are just absolutely bucking the system and trying to get to the point where they don't want to have to take care of chair breakage. And they're only treating it as luggage. If you were to take
mhm,
one of our permobiles, for instance, you're talking a vehicle that's in excess of 80, $90,000. I understand insurance can buy them in bulk and get them for 27, $28,000, but you're still talking the price of a car. And then they treat it like luggage and they only have to replace parts up to a few $1,000s. That you're putting a band-aid on something that needs a tourniquet. And then we're stuck behind the eight ball of fighting with insurance because we use these day in and day out. And if they get damaged on a trip for vacation, work, or anything else, now our vacation, our trip's over with, and we're going into survival mode because
yes,
these
sir.
are our legs. We've got to replace them, no questions asked. And I don't need you to band-aid something that needs a full-on 100% repair. It's
Yes,
not
sir.
going to work.
Well, Mike, I appreciate you telling us about your vacation, and it's always great talking with you about travel and the outdoors. And our podcast today was a little bit different than our normal hunter podcast, but man, I just love talking with you and hearing your experiences and knowing about your travels. And I think we'll have to cut it off here today, but I'll give you the last word as always, brother.
Man, I truly appreciate you and being able to share these podcasts. Again, for everybody that's listening, it's not like we're trying to bring out any negative context that are going on. We're just keeping it real with what we see and what we do. I try to take pictures, good, bad, and indifferent. I'm gonna make any situation into a positive. I had a good time, man. I worked on my tan. I had a couple umbrella drinks. I really had a good time. It just could be better. And that's all we want to do. It's about trying to raise awareness that we leave these islands in a lot better shape than when we found them. Pick up your trash, man. Just try to make sure that we're leaving this earth as clean as we can, but also from wheelchair users, we're not made, life's not made for everything to be wheelchair friendly. We're just trying to work with Mother Nature to deal with what we can, just so it's inclusive for all of us because we want to get off the boat and have a good time and it not be a focused um, look at my chair. Well, let's look at the person that's in the chair and treat that individual and just try to give some humanality to it. How would you want your family member treated? And then let's just make it that way because it's the right thing to do.